Hey, what's up, guys? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction, and we're going to be breaking down UFC 228 from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, as Tyron Woodley defends his UFC welterweight championship against the Gorilla Darren Till. And in the co-main event, we have Nicco Montano trying to defend her title for the first time against the Bullet Valentina Shevchenko in a pretty solid pay-per-view. It's nothing to write home about. There's a few good fights I'm looking forward to. There's some close fights. I'm just kind of struggling with picks a little bit. So yeah, going back to UFC Lincoln, one of my kind of not as good cards of the year, 7 and 6. There was a couple of picks in there. I was a little bit, once it got around to fight time, I was a little bit not too sure about the main event, especially actually. Considering on DraftKings, I played a lot of Justin Gaethje and had a really good profitable night with that. Still managed to make a profit, considering I made a silly bet with Luke Sanders. Considering on here I was citing that I was going to be one of my most least confident picks, and that was one of those fights closer to the fights. I started to get more confident for some reason. Live and learn. So yeah, not the best card. Looking to rebound here and get ready for this good stretch towards the end of the year. As always, thank you for all the new subscriptions. The comments, the support, awesome, always awesome, and yeah, just help me try and get this channel as big as something I would never ever thought it would be. I didn't think it would be this big, as many subscribers, so the opportunity to make it even bigger just kind of blows my mind a little bit, so thanks for that. And lastly, I'll just get into robbetting.com. Ever since he's come on my channel, a couple of events he's won, he's profiting every event. I think he did earlier on with Cage Warriors as well. So yeah, if you mention my name, Will, you get 20% off any package, and then I get a kickback from Rob himself, which goes into my daughter's account, which is pretty awesome to say the least. And she's got a nice little bank balance considering she's only a year old right now. So I know there's people that have bought it over the last few events. So thank you to those guys, and enjoy your money that you're making with Rob right now. So yeah, and also just to Mr. Arkansas, he's doing a like a YouTube predictors kind of, not a tournament, like a little league. He's keeping track of everybody's picks. I actually quite like it. There's been a few people that don't, and there's been certain things that have been going on, which I've noticed in the last week here. A little bit of kind of squabbling back and forth with things being said from months past and so on, and hopefully that issue kind of gets put to bed a little bit, because I just think we need to kind of build a bit of more positivity and going back and forward the way the couple of guys are. Whether it is going back and forward, maybe it's just two guys with different opinions, kind of squabbling a little bit, or just try to get their point across. It's two strong guys, two strong personalities on the channels here, on their own channels. Both guys I listen to. Like I say, I've always wanted different people doing different things on YouTube, and I've always wanted more people to come and make these kind of videos. It's not as easy as what people may think to come on here and do it, and it takes a long time to get used to. I'm thoroughly used to it now. I'm one of the most guys on here that's been on the longest, I should say. And it still never gets any easier. Just you sitting here, my TV's on to the right there, and then you're sitting looking and talking to a computer. It's a little bit weird, but I get a lot of great feedback from you guys, and I love doing it. So yeah, but shout out to Mr. Arkansas for running that. We're going to see who's going to be the best guy in this last quarter of the year. So hopefully I can pick up and raise my percentage, because it's not overly great. I've had a great year for picks. Honestly, I think I've had a really good year. But I just need to have a strong finish to consolidate my good year. So we're going to get into the UFC 228 Fight Pass prelims, where I think we have 5 fights, which is pretty badass, actually. So we're going to start off... Oh, sorry, I've not got that ready. There we go. Got it ready there. Welterweight division with Jeff Neal against Frank Camacho. Fairly decent fight here. I've got a local-ish guy in Jeff Neal trying to maybe get the early punters through the door here against the always entertaining, the always tough Frank Camacho. We'll start with Camacho, just a kind of all-action fighter who is all blood and guts, really respectful fighter. And we've seen him that in the Damian Brown fight. It was all about respect, and I watched his interviews with James Lynch, and he's just a pretty cool dude to kind of listen to talk, and loves to fight, loves to go out there, put on a performance for the fans. and give good fights. And he's did that so far in his UFC tenure. Not all of them have been wins. And really, he could have come into the UFC here and he could be on a 0-3 skid because that Damian Brown fight was very close. I think I edged it to him at the time. Went back and watched it close. Drew Dober, I think Drew Dober fought a very close fight. I think that was a lot closer than I initially thought when I went back and watched it last week for Drew Dober. And the Li Jingliang one was pretty decisive for Li Jingliang, but he gave a good performance in that nonetheless. A guy that comes out just ready to stand his ground and throw down, and it's just a tough guy. He's obviously a tough guy out there. If you go back to his pre-UFC days, you've seen that this guy has been put down with punches before, so he's a guy to plant his feet, throw shots, and look to take you out, but can also be open to good counter strikers, fire him back and hit him that. Jeff Neal can be that kind of fight. I think he's got some really good, I think he's got some serviceable striking. I think he can, when Frank Camacho is throwing the fury, I think he can go in there and catch him with some nice counters. I also think he can grapple in this one. I think that's what he's going to want to do. I think he has a definitive advantage in that area. Not huge, but I think he can use it to his advantage. I think he can just tie up Camacho a little bit more. I think he's got a little bit more to his game than what Camacho has. Camacho's a blood and guts fighter who wants to stand there and throw and trade. And I think Neal can mix it up a little bit. I think he's been there with a better opposition. Some of the better opposition outside the UFC. I think he did okay with some of the fights he had, and he's looked okay in his UFC kind of tenure so far. I know it's not really saying much that his only win is over Ryan Camozzi, I think it is, and he turned out to be an absolute shell in the UFC. For me, I feel more confident in picking Jeff Neal here, and I'm going to pick him to win via a decision. I think Camacho's a tough guy to put out. But if Frank lands early, he could put his lights out. I just feel more confident picking Jeff Neal. So Neal via decision now. Flyweight division. Actually, a fight I'm looking forward to. The more I looked into the fights, a couple of fights of these guys, I thought this, for a flyweight fight, I think has every opportunity to finish inside the distance, which is something you can't always say for a flyweight fight. But both guys, I think, have got the opportunity to do that here. With Ryan Benoit against Roberto Little Fury Sanchez. And yeah, interesting bout. We've seen Ryan Benoit, he's got power. He throws a lot of big power shots. And if he catches you, like we've seen in the past a few times, he can put you down and he can put you to sleep. Most notably the Sergio Pettis fight, which I think was fairly close, and then he managed to land a big shot and get the finish in that one there. And since then, he's kind of been flip-flopping wins and losses pretty much. Ben Nguyen, he got submitted. Fred Serrano, close fight where I think if he just was a little bit more polished, he would have won that fight a bit more convincingly. Brandon Moreno, that was a fairly close split decision, and then he beat Ashkan Mukhtarin with a head kick last time out. Who I don't really overly rate Ashkan Mukhtarin all too much there, but he did get the finish nonetheless. And he's a guy that it's fairly obvious. One of his glaring weaknesses is he gets his back taken very, very easily, and when you look at his opponent, he takes the back very, very well. But can he take a shot? We've seen him been put down with a shot. I think Bopo Morales hurt him with a shot. He's been hurt back in the local scene a little bit by shots, but he always seems to find a way to kind of survive and then get the opportunity to get the submission. When you look, Ben Nguyen, Josh Sampo, they got the back of Ryan Benoit, and he gives it up in a lot of fights as well. And he's one of those guys that just doesn't fight smart when that happens. He literally doesn't know what to do. He starts floundering. You would think a guy that's happened to a few times would start to work on what is obviously a weakness. Work, try and get the hands, try and unlock the hands before they get around your neck. Actually, that's what you have to do. Try and get that arm around your neck. And you instantly see the panic in his eyes when he starts to do that. And for me, that's a big kind of red flag in this fight, because Sanchez doesn't offer much on the feet, which is obviously more for Benoit, a more positive for him. But once it goes to the ground, I think that Sanchez can find his way to the back. And that is kind of where I'm moving to in this kind of fight here. It's whether I do think he will get Ryan down. I can see Ryan also getting back to his feet, but I think eventually he will find a way to get it down to the ground. And I think his better control. The way he uses to find his way into the submissions that he likes, i.e. the rear naked choke and so on, then I think that's where he will look to obviously take the fight. He doesn't want to stand in and throw with Ryan, because Ryan has the bigger power. I think he's the better shots. He's the more technical guy. But like I said, if this hits the ground, I thoroughly believe that someone like Roberto Sanchez can find the neck. He did that against Clayton May, David Waters, away back in the LFA days. And then he did it against Joby Sanchez, who he got out there in the first round. So for me, I'm going to go with the Jits guy here. I'm going to go with Roberto Sanchez to find a way to get this to the ground, and then ultimately find a submission via armbar, rear naked choke, so on. I think the opportunity of getting a rear naked choke is there. I don't think a bad bet in this one, and I've only got one bet made for this card so far, which will go on a little bit later. But yeah, I think there's a big opportunity here. I think if Ryan can come out and stamp his authority on the feet, then I think he can put Roberto down and fluster him a little bit and find the chin. But I can also see, I think that Sanchez is going to come straight out, look to engage, maybe get into a clinch position, get him down, and work that submission game, which I think he has a bigger advantage over there. So I'm going to go Roberto Sanchez to win via rear naked choke, submission, possibly round 1, round 2, and those first couple of rounds I like him to find a submission there. So Roberto Sanchez is going to be my pick in that one there. Moving on to the women's bantamweight division. Flip-flopping in this pick a little bit. Irene Aldana against Lucy Pudilova. Initially, my lean was Aldana. Earlier on in the week here, I must say, I'm putting this video out on a Saturday because I'm going on vacation to my mum's tomorrow. So that's why it's out early, just in case you're wondering here why it's out early Saturday or late Saturday or early Sunday, wherever you are. So, yeah, Lucy Pudilova against Aldana. Initially, I was on Aldana. Pudilova, over the last couple of days, I'm thinking, Aldana has not shown anything what she did back in Invicta, where she was, to be fair, she wasn't fighting great fights like Peggy Morgans and so on, and she was beating them up pretty badly. She has really good technique on the feet, or at least I thought she did, but that petters out during a fight, and she, I don't know, I'm kind of struggling with this one a little bit, because like I say, I was initially on Irene, and then I moved on to Lucy. When I started watching her fights, I thought, right, she can force this to she will take some strikes, but she can maybe force it where she can get to the cage and maybe work on Aldana a little bit. But she does take a lot of strikes when getting into those positions. Even, I mean, she beat up Lena Landsberg pretty badly with those, but she also took a lot of shots in that one herself. She hurt Sarah Morris in that fight numerous times, but continuously put herself in situations which were not good for her at all, putting in opportunities for her to get choked out and caught and stuff. That was the kind of red flag that kind of showed out to me in this one, and that kind of leaned me back towards Irene Aldana. The fight is a pick'em, I believe. I've not looked at the odds probably since early on in the week, but I believe it's a pick'em. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think this has got a split decision written all over it. I can see Lucy coming out, establishing early. I think she's got the faster hands, but I think the technique and the power is on Aldana a little bit. But it's 6.5 a dozen. It's not overly close. It's not, something's not obvious. I don't think there's. I've had a couple of people message me saying, bet the house on Irene Aldana, and they must see something that I don't. But everybody's different the way they view fights. I see this being very close. I think Pudilova is all action. She's never out of fight. She's very, very game. And Aldana is not the prospect I once thought she would be. I thought she'd be a lot better than what she is, but she's not great. I thought she had the opportunity to get Talita Bernardo out of there very, very early on in the fight, and then kind of made it scrappy, and she got taken down, and she got challenged a little bit more than I thought she would. So for me, I'm leaning Irene Aldana. Not super confident. It's kind of one of those 50, 55, 45, a slight advantage for Aldana, but I'm going to pick her to win via decision here. Lightweight division, Jim Miller against Alex White. I'm seeing a lot of people very confident in Alex White here, and I do kind of agree with him a little bit, but I do think this is one of the tougher fights that he could potentially have as well, because Jim Miller's game, and I think if he can find a way to take this to the ground, he could potentially give Alex White a lot of problems. I think he's facing the best guy he's ever fought in regards to a jiu-jitsu fighter and an opportunistic guy in what Jim Miller is. But then you look at Jim Miller, who he is at that end of his career. You can definitely see that. There's a few fighters like that out there who are close to the end of their career. And honestly, this is another fight I'm kind of struggling with a little bit. I'm seeing people super confident Alex White. And again, that's one of the things that when I'm making these picks, I'm thinking, right, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing to make them super confident? Are they taking in the skill sets? Are they taking in the fact that his skill set may be deteriorating? It's not as like it once was. So I'm kind of looking at things like that. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards Alex White a little bit, because I do think he's a lot faster. His striking is far better. I do think that Jim Miller can maybe upset the apple a little bit by using those leg kicks, kick the legs out from him, clinch up, get him to the ground. Now, if he gets him to the ground, I do think he can cause some problems down there. You look at the wins that White's had in the UFC, Mitch Clark, Artem Lobov, Esteban Payan. I mean, they're not great. Losses to Tony Martin, Clay Collard, who's not great, James Krause, who I kind of wrote off a little bit too quick in his last fight. I'll put my hands up and say that. So yeah, his wins aren't great. So Jim Miller, in my opinion, is one of the hardest guys he's ever fought outside maybe Tony Martin and James Krause, who he lost to. So, but it's the fact that Jim Miller has been around a long time. He's took a lot of damage, and he is effectively at the end of his UFC career, maybe MMA career. But I've just got a feeling this fight could hit the ground, and ultimately Jim Miller could catch him in something, and he can do that. But again, I can see maybe Alex White catching him with a shot right in the button part of the chin and hurting Jim Miller and putting him down. When you look at the class of opponent that Jim Miller's fought, the guy's fought the who's who of fighters. It is crazy. Even his last, I know his losses recently have been pretty bad. Not bad, but they've been pretty destructive. He's taken a lot of damage. He's given out a lot of damage. In that Poirier fight, he gave out a fair whack to Dustin Poirier as well. But look at his 4 losses in a row. And you look at the lightweight division as it is right now, you've got Dustin Poirier on the cusp of a title shot. Anthony Pettis, former champion, who looked very similar to the old Showtime in his last fight. And he's got a great fight with Tony Ferguson coming up. Francisco Trinaldo, just a tough old bastard who it's just really hard to fight and is in your face. He went down to Brazil there, made it scrappy, but Trinaldo's ultimately was just a tougher guy. And then Dan Hooker caught him with that knee right in the chin and put him down. Even the Thiago Alves, he was catching Thiago trying to make 155 when he knew he could never make 155. Won over Joe Lozon, which I thought Joe Lozon actually won. So it's crazy. The guy, when you look at the names he's fought, and then he had Gomi before that. So in the last, since UFC 200, I think UFC, was it 196 he fought Diego Sanchez? Yeah, 196 he fought Diego Sanchez and lost that one as well. So I'm going to, Jim Miller's jumping out at me at this for a little bit. I think he's got an opportunity to win. But for me, I think the pick has to be Alex White. I'm a little bit humming and hawing with that one. I'm going to go Alex White to win via a very hard decision. It wouldn't surprise me if it went to a split here. It's just kind of how I see the fight going. But yeah, that's what I'm going to go with there. Alex White to win via decision. Moving on to the main fight of the UFC Fight Pass prelims, we have the Nightmare, the Dream, the Ultimate Warrior, as I call him, Diego Sanchez against Craig Thundercat White. You guys all know, if you've been around for me for the longest time, you know who is my favourite fighter of all time. And it is Diego Sanchez. I've got no qualms in saying that whatsoever. I think he's put on some of the most entertaining scraps. He was the original Ultimate Fighter. He's the only guy that's kicking around who is still in the UFC and fighting, I believe. So yeah, the guy's, in my opinion, he's a legend. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Fought for a title against the great BJ Penn, which I still think that's BJ Penn's greatest ever ever fight, in my opinion. He totally put it on Diego Sanchez and really looked phenomenal in that fight. I flew out to America for that one. I thought that I was positive Diego Sanchez was going to win that belt, but he never really had a look in against the great prodigy and BJ Penn. So what is Diego really known for? Pressings, in your face, all action, ready to put it out there on the line. To be honest with you, the last few years that has really come back to bite him in the ass, and it's really hurt him. And that short resilience has started to disappear a little bit, and he can't take a shot anymore, and it's very, very noticeable. It's not hard to see. You watch his last few fights, and he can be put down with decent shots. He's another guy like Jim Miller. He's at the end of his tenure, I believe, coming off some brutal, like his last 3 losses are really brutal knockouts. And even before that, he lost to Ricardo Lamas. He kind of got his ass beat with leg kicks. With his 2 wins over Marcin Held and Jim Miller. This is kind of where I'm going with this one. I think they're similar fights to what those guys are, especially Marcin Held. Marcin Held's kind of submission or bust, looks for takedown, looks to go for leg locks and so on, and just can kind of control you with that. In my opinion, I like Craig White. He's a really good, solid fighter over here from the UK. This card's kind of got a little bit of a English, European kind of feel to it with the amount of English people that are fighting on the show, which is a little bit weird for a pay-per-view, but really solid fighter. But I do think he is limited a little bit. I think that he can be put down on his back. He is decent off his back. But I think someone with Diego's, if in my opinion, if Diego gets this guy down, I don't see him catching Diego in a submission. I just cannot fathom it, being honest with you. I really can't. But what he can do is he can catch him in the chin. This is at welterweight. He is going to be the bigger guy. He has had a full camp for this one. He came in very short notice against Neil Magny, had a brutal weight cut, and lost to a guy who's in the welterweight top 10 division. Now he's got Diego Sanchez, and now if you get Diego Sanchez and the opportunity to fight this guy, and you have him on your record there, whether you beat him, well, obviously if you beat him, it's going to look a lot better than you do losing to him. What a big opportunity that is to fight someone like Diego Sanchez, and maybe he loses here. This could be the end of Diego. It could be his last fight in the UFC, which, considering the amount of fights Diego's had there, would be a pretty good feather in your cap. When you look at Craig White, I think he has to do what he did in the Matt Inman fight. If you go back and watch that, you can find him on UFC Fight Pass. You will see that he came out swinging very, very wildly, which is something that Diego does as well. But if he catches you and backs you up against the fence, he will unload very vicious shots like he did in that Inman fight. The Montagnani fight, he got taken down, found a triangle choke in the second round. The guy for me is a finish or bust guy. You either finish this guy or he finishes you, and he is very good at finishing some of his fights in positions that some fighters aren't good at, like off your back, triangle choke. So yeah, I'm struggling to see if he doesn't catch the chin of Diego. I think Diego wins this fight hands down. I'm trying not to be biased, and I am a little bit, because I really want Diego to win, but if you're looking back at Diego's wins as well, he's got wins in his record he should never be having. He seems to, when he goes to a close fight, he gets the nod every time, and he probably doesn't even deserve it half the time, but it is what it is. For me, if Craig White can't come out here and catch him early, I think that Diego's forward momentum and his pressure and his pressings right there will start to eat at Craig White, and I think he will be taken down. I think he'll be laid upon. I think that Sanchez will work on him with strikes and ultimately win rounds through that. So in my opinion, he has to finish him early. If he does not finish him early, I think that Diego's momentum and his confidence will rise, and he'll be a little bit, not unstoppable, but I think it'll be very tough to put away. I think he will realise what he has to do to win this fight, and hopefully doesn't come out here and start swinging like an absolute wild man, which he has done in the past. Because then I think one half-decent clean shot will hurt him and put him down. But I just think his presence and his pressure will pay dividends in this fight, and he will come forward and push Craig White against the cage, get takedowns, and just be careful. Diego Sanchez is hard to catch in submissions. He's a really good... There's jiu-jitsu fights on YouTube of Diego Sanchez. He is pretty decent at it. We just don't see it. We never really have done, to be honest with you. But I think the wrestling and the pressure is going to be too much for Craig White here, and he's going to beat him. I think he could stop Craig White, honestly. I think he could beat him with heavy ground and pound or win a decision. I'm kind of leaning more to a decision, but my pick's going to be Diego Sanchez to win the fight here. And like I stated earlier on, the only bet I have for this card is Diego Sanchez so far, and I've got him at plus 200. I got him at, so I've gave him a shot. And like I say, Craig White is okay. I just don't think he's great, and I think this is a winnable fight for Diego Sanchez. So yeah, moving on. What's going on here? There we go. Yeah, we're moving on to the prelims here. Fox Sports prelims in the bantamweight division with Jimmie Rivera against John Dodson. Another fight I wanted to be confident in Jimmie Rivera in. I'm not confident in Jimmie Rivera. But I do think that John Dodson's kind of slowed down a little bit back from a couple of years ago when he was very lightning fast. Maybe people have worked this guy out. He doesn't throw in volume anymore, so it's really hard. This is the kind of my defining factor on this fight is I don't think he throws enough now to win rounds, and he loses split decisions, very, very close ones. Marlon Moraes, John Lineker, I think he had opportunities in those fights to go ahead and ultimately win those fights and never did it. Shown a little bit hesitant in his fight, where he's just struggling a little bit. Even in the Mendes fight, the Munoz fight, that was very close split decision. So he's fighting close. His last kind of couple of wins, Eddie Wyland, he's tail end. Manny Gamburian retired. Not taken away from the Pedro Munoz loss win. That's a good win, I think. Munoz is a dangerous dude. But he loses close decisions like he did with Lineker. For me, he just doesn't have enough output. And this is why he's losing these decisions. I think he never had a better time to beat someone like Marlon Moraes like he did. And he just never took the opportunity that was kind of really gifted to him in that fight, in my opinion. Jimmie Rivera now, he's coming. This is a big fight for him psychologically, coming back after his 20-fight win streak got snapped pretty devastatingly by Marlon Moraes, like I just mentioned there. Got knocked out in the first minute, I think it was, in that fight. Ate a pretty flush head kick and got put down. And it was a little bit of bad blood between those two, I think, or maybe Ali Abdelaziz, who seems to have bad blood with a lot of people. But I think it's a big fight for him to get himself into that title contention again, because he's not far off, in my opinion, because I do think he's a top 5 guy. Maybe he's teetering on top 5 in that division. I think he's got a really good skill set, really tough, good fighter with his striking, coming from Tiger Schulman. Got really good grappling, doesn't show it all too much, but it's just a tough guy to fight, and John Dodson will find this guy pretty tough to fight. Got some Thomas Almeida fight, dropped Thomas a couple of times. He got hurt a little bit himself there, made that maybe a little bit closer than it really should have been. Uriah Faber fight. Faber was on that tail end again of, which I seem to be saying a lot with this video, of his career. Beat Alcantara. He's got good names on his record. Faber, Alcantara, Munoz, Almeida. So yeah, and like I remember watching his first fight in the UFC. It was in Glasgow, which was a nice one there to see Jimmy early on in his UFC career, and he smoked Marcus Brimage in that fight. For me, it's whether I think he's got enough output to look good in the judges' scorecards, where Dodson, I think he's got the power to potentially hurt Jimmie Rivera. And when I looked at the lines in this, I thought I really like the line with Jimmie Rivera's at, but it's a little bit of a sucker line, because I think that Dodson has the potential to put it on the end of the chin and potentially hurt Jimmie Rivera. And it's a big fight for him coming back after that loss, and it was only in early June as well, so he's only taken a few months off, maybe 3 months, and he's back in here again. I want to be super confident in Jimmie Rivera. I'm not. I'm pretty much 60-40, in the favour of him, and I am going to pick him to win via split decision. I see Dodson fighting close all 3 rounds, and just making it tough and making it very close in the judges' eyes. So I'm going to pick Jimmie Rivera to win via a split decision there. Moving on, we have Charles Byrd against Darren Stewart. Another close fight here. A lot of people are writing off Darren Stewart and saying that Charles Byrd is levels above this guy. I don't see it, honestly. I think that UFC Liverpool was a big, big win for Darren Stewart. In his previous UFC fights, I think his fight IQ was pretty bad, honestly. I think he was engaging in fights and brawls that he really didn't have to do, especially Julian Marquez's fight. I think if he fought with a kind of smarter head or just a more clearer head is what I'm trying to say, I think he could have won that fight. Instead, he went out there, got caught in a guillotine choke and just wanted to engage in a brawl and fought really stupidly with spinning back fists and all that. Carl Robertson went out there, got caught via submission there. Francois Barros lost in London. So he was lucky to actually get another fight in the UFC, being honest with you. And then he came out against Eric Spicely. The first round wasn't overly great, but got the opportunity to finish the fight. And when he got the opportunity, he stayed calm, which is something he didn't show in his previous fights. Even in his Cage Warriors, he was just gung-ho going for it. And that's fine, but you have to be careful in certain situations. And he was on this occasion. It was a massive win. He was like the happiest guy in the fighter hotel afterwards because he'd been spared the cut from the UFC, and he finally got a win. Now he's got himself a fight against Charles Byrd, who he showed against John Phillips. In honesty, John Phillips hasn't got a ground game really at all to write home about, and it kind of showed there. And it's one of these fights that I sit here and I cringe a little bit for picking John Phillips, the white Mike Tyson. I maybe looked too much into the power and some of the fights that he's had over here, and ultimately he had zero ground game, and he showed that and got caught with it pretty badly. We also saw Charles Byrd rear naked choke Randall Wallace on Dana White's show. I think, did he beat someone via an arm, a choke, an arm triangle choke? That might have been another Dana White show, actually. He might have fought twice in that one. So he's got another opportunity here to fight in the UFC, and I think this is the fight on my other podcast, the MMA Huddle. I picked Charles Byrd in that one, but I think no, I'm not. I'm going to stick with my original pick because there's no point in flip-flopping. I've not really went back and looked at this fight since I filmed my other podcast on Thursday night. I am going to stick with Charles Byrd, but I think this is pissing me off because I do feel that Darren Stewart is really close. You know what? I'm going to go with Darren Stewart. No, I'm not. I'm flip-flopping and apologise. I'm not confident, but I'm going to go with Charles Byrd. I've got my original picks down here, and I'm like looking at this one especially, and it's kind of jumping out at me a little bit to pick Darren Stewart. But I'm going to go Charles Byrd to win a very, very close decision in this one here. As you can see, this is literally my 50-50 pick of this card. I think it's really, really close. Could go either way. People are completely writing off Darren Stewart. I think that last win was maybe a big turning point for him. But I'm still sitting here. I need to get away from this fight because I must have changed pick about 5 times in this fight. I'm going to keep changing if I don't just get away from this fight. So I'm going to pick Charles Byrd via decision. Not confident. Think Darren Stewart has a chance, but I'm getting off this fight because I'm just jibber-jabbering, and I'm going to talk myself out of my original pick, which is something I don't want to do because it's something I said I didn't want to do at the start of the year. So Charles Byrd, decision. Moving on, bantamweight division. One of my most favourite fights in the entire card, Aljamain Sterling against Cody Stamann. And this is one I have changed my pick on, and I'm sticking with my new pick. This was one of the fights when I first heard it was on this card. I looked into this one when I had the free time to do so. And I initially went off with Aljamain Sterling. That was the guy I liked. In the last week or so, I have changed my mind over to Cody Stamann. The big thing that worries me with Cody Stamann is he's a shorter guy, and he's got like short arms, and I think on occasions he might kind of struggle with the length that Aljo's got, because Aljo throws weirdly. He throws like hunched over, throws long, throws teeps, and looks to kind of, he doesn't want to engage in brawls on the feet. And I think Stamen is the better striker, but I just think what he's got with his length might struggle a little bit. And when it comes to the grappling side, I think Sterling is always a tough guy to grapple against. But when you look at both guys' records, I think Corey Stamen actually maybe has the better wins, and he's not been in the UFC as long as what Sterling has. I mean, Sterling's got a win over a UFC champion. Stamen's got a win over Brian Caraway, who beat Aljamain Sterling. He's got a win over Tom Duquesnoy, who I think is a good fighter. Some other people might not say so, but I think he's a good fighter. So he's got some really good wins on his UFC record, and it's the other step up here to facing someone like Aljo after that win over Brian Caraway, which was close. Caraway's a tough guy to fight regardless. He's a hard guy to put away, but I thought he looked decent in that fight, personally. Sterling coming off that devastating loss to Marlon Moraes, where he was eating the canvas with that knee that caught him, and it was a brutal knockout. And at UFC Liverpool, it was quite good to speak to that guy regarding that, and his mindset was pretty cool. He's like, he never envisioned it was going to happen, but it was like a big shining light when it did, and it gave him extra things to work on defensively going forward. Came off that, got back in there fairly quick against Brett Johns, and pretty much bossed that fight, being honest with you. I think his wrestling, his grappling was a big thing there, and I think his striking, it has got better over the years. I thought Nasson South fight was I bet him in that fight, so I might be a little bit biased there, but I thought it looked good. I bet him, I think, to win via decision, and I thought he had parts in that fight where he looked really good against one of the best guys in the division, honestly, in Rafael Nasson South. But yeah, I like Corey Stamen. I think I picked against him probably in the last fight. Dickomoa fight, I definitely did. I think I picked him in the Caraway fight. I thought he was just a really good time to get Brian Caraway after being off for a long time. And I just think he's got a really good, solid skill set. I just think he's short. And against some of those guys, like a TJ Dillashaw, he would be outclassed, personally, I think. I think Dominic Cruz would give him a lot of problems as well, but whether we're going to see Dominic Cruz again, I think him and Jimmie Rivera would be a pretty good fight. Both guys who are decent striking with wrestling backgrounds. So that's a fight I might actually, if both these guys win the next fight, it could ultimately be a good fight down the line. For me, I just think that Corey Stamen's going to edge a very close fight here. This might come back to bite me in the arse by not going with my original pick. This is like a couple of weeks back though, guys. So in the last probably 7 to 10 days, I've changed my pick. In fact, I've changed. The last couple of days, sorry, I should say, because on the huddle, I think I went with Aljamain Sterling, I believe. But before that, I was already thinking about Corey Stamen. And yeah, I'm going to go Corey Stamen. Honestly, I think he's going to win a close fight. I'm seeing people on Aljamain Sterling, and I can see why they are, but I just feel a little bit more confident in picking Corey Stamen here. And he's a guy, honestly, I've been kind of looking at betting, but then I thought if I'm thinking it's going to go to a split, it's a risky one. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to pick Corey Stamen to win via decision now. Moving on to the featured fight of the prelims, we have Abdul Razak Alhassan against Niko Price. Interesting one here because I know I've got some people that will watch this who have I already know they've put bets down on Niko Price, and I don't think he's that good. People think he's a top 10 guy, a top 15 guy. I don't think he will ever be one of those guys. I don't know why. I think he's very good. I think he's good. I just don't think he's very good. When I look at top 15 guys, I don't see him beating many top 15 guys in there. Maybe the odd one or two, but to me, I thought he looked weary against George Sullivan. George Sullivan was up on the scorecards after a round against that guy. Got the finish. Good. In that fight with Randy Brown, I kind of won the million thing, catching him off his back. Literally his back there and throwing hammer fists and catching Randy Brown and knocking him out. And you've got to give that guy respect for some of that, because not many fighters kind of go for shots like that. And he caught him with clean, precise shots on the chin and really hurt him. So he's overall a very kind of dangerous, kind of wild fighter that you have to be careful with on the feet and on the ground. His only losses came to Vicente Luque, who I think is a top 10 guy potentially, very, very soon. Who has got a fight? I can't remember who's against. UFC Argentina. I'll let you come back to that. But he's facing Abdul Razak Alhassan, who we've seen here. I seen firsthand his UFC debut in Belfast, ran through Charlie Ward with ease, fought back-to-back against Sabah Hamasi. And Sabah Hamasi is not a good fighter. He won, he pretty much beat him the first time and then came back and got a performance bonus by beating him again. In between that, lost to Omari Akhmadov, which I was still impressed with. Even though he lost that fight, he went 3 hard rounds with a guy from Russia who is he's just a tough guy to face and he's a tough guy to beat, and he lost that fight. But in the 3rd round, he came through big, won that round. So people are talking about his gas tank, and once he gasses, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, he showed in that fight that he can go hard into the 3rd round and win the round ultimately. Big power. Big. When you look at all the power that kind of accumulates from his hips, he throws from there and he unloads some big, massive shots. And ultimately, that's where I see him beating Niko Price. Now, initially I thought, can he get Abdul down? I thought, well, Omari did it. I think Niko could do it. He has got the judoka background, which I thought would be a little bit harder to take down, but he seems to be that he is a little bit easier to take down. But for me, I just think that Niko is going to allow him, Abdul Razak Alhassan, to engage in a brawl. I think he's going to be too willing to sit back and want to engage with this guy. And now we could catch Razak Alhassan. But if these guys are going to have a fist fight, I'm 100% on the guy with, I think, the more power. I think he's faster as well. Now, the conditioning worries me a little bit, but like I said, he went in the 3rd round and won that against Omari Akhmadov. So maybe it's not as big a thing as I'm maybe thinking in my head. It's maybe just a little bit different between what I'm saying. But honestly, I think Abdul here is going to beat Niko Price, and I think he's going to knock him out senseless in the 1st round. So, yeah, another guy I'm looking at betting. I'm just waiting for that line to get closer. I think he's minus 140 over here in the UK. When I looked Thursday, if I can get 120 for that, I will be all over it. I think he beats Niko Price, and I think he knocks him out devastatingly in the 1st round here. Actually, this is on the main card. I'm looking at the wrong order here. So, yeah, this is actually going to be on the main card. Esparza and Suarez has got switched in the last few days, and it just hasn't got updated here at the list I'm looking at. So, but I'm going to pick Abdul Razak Alhassan. I think he knocks him out, plants those feet, hits him with a big, nasty shot and puts him down. And that's, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Niko Price. I think he's decent. I think he'll win fights against some decent-ish fighters. I think Alhassan has the more, I think it's more, I think he can go on further, actually, than what Niko Price can, personally. But that's just my thoughts on that. Moving on to pay-per-view, which I've kind of got these mixed up because Esparza and Suarez is now the main fight, the prelims. But it is what it is in here on the list here. So, Karla Esparza against Tatiana Suarez. I think it's a tough matchup for Esparza. I think it's the right matchup for Suarez to move in to. I mean, if she wins this, she's beat a former title holder. That's always something good to have in your record. She is the bigger girl here. I believe she is the better wrestler. And I think she needs to show that. I think I said to someone, maybe we need to see more of her on her feet. And then I thought, nah, this girl can take you down, control you, and beat you up. So go ahead and do that. Like I say, I think she's 5'5" to Esparza's 5 foot, 5'1", longer reach. I think she's just a stronger girl. Esparza, to her credit, I thought she fought a really good fight against Gadelia and was a little bit unlucky not to win that fight. Being honest with you, I thought she was kind of moving down a kind of peg, and she's kind of picked herself back up a little bit and looked better in her last few fights, better than I honestly thought she was going to look. Like I say, I thought she had already got that big title on the mantelpiece there, and was going to look at that for the rest of her days, won the Ultimate Fighter and all that jazz. But came back, beat Marina Moroz, which is not really saying an awful lot, beat Cynthia Calvillo, which I thought was a really good win. Calvillo, I think, is dangerous. And then losing a very close split to Claudia Gadelha, where her striking was definitely improved, and she gave Gadelha all sorts of trouble in that fight. To me, I think Suarez is just a bulldozer of a fighter, and she's very strong. I think she's got a really top wrestling game. I think if this girl never got injured, she was 100% going to the Olympics, and to be that kind of caliber in wrestling says a lot. And she's got the right fights in the UFC so far. Amanda Cooper, Viviana Pereira, which I think is a good win to have in your record. Alexa Grasso, who she stopped via submission. I do think she has a sick submission game due to her strength and due to her control. Do I see her doing that to Esparza? I think she can. I think she's going to take her down. I think she's going to dominate her with her top game, and eventually she's going to find the back and catch a choke. So I'm going to pick Tatiana Suarez to win via second round submission. Moving on, women's strawweight division, Jessica Andrade against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I don't like this fight an awful lot for Kowalkiewicz. I've been sat here for the last few days thinking, right, how does she win this fight? And is she going to sit back and just pop and run, hit her with shots and move? And I don't see it. I see someone like Jessica Andrade being a terminator and absolutely cutting off the angles and just hurting Karolina Kowalkiewicz and just like taking her down. Like that fight with Gadelha is still, I think, one of the most brutal fights I've ever watched in a UFC octagon. She absolutely went in there and ripped apart Claudia Gadelha and bloodied her up and just beat her ass really badly. Then beat Tisha Torres. So she's beaten, when you look at the top five of that division, there's obviously Rose, Joanna, Andrade, Torres, and then I think for me it's Gadelha and Kowalkiewicz, the top six girls in that division, fairly comfortably actually. And she's beat Torres and Gadelha very convincingly. I don't see this honestly being any different. I like Karolina as a fighter. I think she looks pretty with a skill set and so on. She pops you with the little shots. You're not going to do that with someone like Andrade. The thing with Joanna and Jacek, she had a little bit more guile to her. She used leg kicks. She's a little bit, I think she's faster than Kowalkiewicz as well. And she avoided anything that Andrade had for her. I think if they were to have a rematch, I think I'd maybe favour Andrade, honestly. Yeah, I think Andrade is going to get her down. I think she could find a submission here. So I'm going to go a submission win for Jessica Andrade. If not, I think a 30-26 across the board for her here. A fight put together after Yair Rodriguez pulled out, which I'll be honest with you, I was going to pick Yair Rodriguez over Zabit Magomedovshripov. I thought and especially with the line, I was definitely going to have a little bet on that. I thought Yair was going to show up and really turn the screw here. Now, I like Zabit. You've heard me in the videos before. I like what I see from him. And I do think that Yair could have been a potentially good fight for him, but I think it could have been a bad one as well. But that fight's not going to happen. It might happen at the end of the year if this one finishes early or they get it put together. What have we seen from Brandon Davis? Just kind of like your working man's fighter. Nothing great, decent striking, very, very serviceable. Kind of stands there, doesn't have the greatest footwork, doesn't angle off. So he's going to be prime target stuff here for Zabit. I think he can be taken down easily. And ultimately, I just think this is a good... The UFC know what they're doing by putting this match together. Gets Zabit another win. It builds the hype train a little bit. I think in the fight with Bochniak, we've seen that there's still things for this guy to learn. I love the fact that he came over to America and he's established himself with Ricardo Almeida. He's got a good camp there with Mark Henry. And what we've seen him in the UFC, the guy's been a straight destroyer. Handled Mike Santiago very comfortably, beat him via submission. Shima Moraes, who I don't think he's ever going to be a great fighter, but I think he's a tough fighter to get past. And ultimately, he took him down, beat him up in the field a bit, took a few strikes, but ultimately he just kind of bossed that fight. And then Bochniak started off super well, was pinging him off from distance and hurting Bochniak. But then as he kind of started to fade just a little bit, the kind of fighting spirit of Karl Bochniak came through, and he made it tough. He made it closer, a lot closer than I ever thought it was going to be. But yeah, Wushu guy, 4-time Russian Wushu champion. I think he won the World Cup in Wushu. I remember going back and watching a couple of his fights actually with that. Just dangerous in all aspects. And I thought Yair was the step up that he needed. This guy's just coming in here, he's filling, and he's probably going to get himself a good paycheck, get a little bit more money than he was probably going to get for his next fight. And yeah, got a big opportunity to beat Zabit here. Stop the hype train. I don't see it. I'm going to pick Zabit to win via submission. No, I'm not. TKO, sorry. In round number 2 here. I think he wears down, and it's just too accurate, too fast, too varied in his attacks, and will just hurt Brandon Davis, and he will make him kind of quit in that fight, and he'll break him down pretty much. And the co-main event of the night, we have Nicco Montano facing off against Valentina Shevchenko, and I'm just going to get it straight out of the way. I'm picking Valentina to win. I'd be very surprised if I've seen many guys on YouTube come on here and pick Nicco Montano to win. But I think people are showing a little bit disrespect. Are they showing disrespect? I mean, Nico's like, a lot of people are saying, oh, she's only a 3-2 fighter and this and that. I actually add on the Ultimate Fighter when she beat girls who've been in the UFC, and they're like Barb Honchak, Montana De La Rosa. All those 3 girls are in the UFC now. So Lauren Murphy, who was previously in the UFC. So she's beat decent, it's hard to say decent girls. She's beat decent opposition for what's in that weight class, I suppose I should say. Beat Roxanne Modafferi, who Roxanne came in there on very short notice after Sijara Eubanks. Don't think she could have made the weight, and she had to pull out, and Roxanne had to come in there very, very quickly. And I thought she did what she had to do there. She got maybe hit a bit too many times than originally thought she would, and Roxanne made it tough, but initially she used her takedowns and just won the fight kind of unanimously over the 5 rounds there. But when you look at everything what Valentina's got, she's the better striker. She is probably the better jiu-jitsu. She's got underrated jiu-jitsu, I think, and ultimately could be the champion at 135. The fight she had with Nunes was super, super close. And we've seen, like I say, she submitted Julianna Peña, which I did not see coming. I don't think many people have seen coming. She outstruck Holly Holm. She completely outclassed Holly Holm actually in that fight. She was a massive underdog in that one as well, I remember. I don't know what the line is in this one, because I know early on it was huge. I'm guessing it's probably went up. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is not going to last long, and it might not last overly that long. Valentina's coming off an absolute bludgeoning of Priscilla Cachoeira down in Brazil, where I've no idea what Mario Yamasaki was doing in that fight. He let that girl take an absolute beating, which she did not deserve. But this girl, she's had so many fights, kickboxing, MMA now. She's been around for the longest time. I just think this is a massive difference in experience here between Montano and Shevchenko. And you look at who they fought. I mean, she's fought former champions in Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, Sarah Kaufman, who's had belts. So I just think the skill set, I think she has far more skills. I think she has far more ways to finish the fight. And ultimately, on the other podcast I did with John, I actually went via decision. And I don't think it's a bad one to look at, because, like I say, she doesn't finish awfully a lot of fights, but I think she has the opportunity to finish this one here. I ultimately think she hurts on the feet and starts to... Am I going to go with decision? Nah, I'm going to go TKO round number 3 there for Valentina. I just think she will have a lot of output and really just put it on Nicco Montano and win the UFC flyweight championship of the world there. So the bullet to win the title in that one. And in the main event of the night, honestly, I didn't think this fight was going to get put together. Because I did think that Colby Covington, he went out there and he won the interim title. And I think he got a little bit of a bad beat with that one, and he's going to get stripped of the title when this fight takes place, which I think is a little bit off, personally. And I'm not a Colby guy, but he went out there and beat a good guy, and Demian Maia. But Darren Till's getting his opportunity. After UFC Liverpool, I didn't think that he would get the opportunity to fight for the title here. I really didn't, especially after missing weight as well, which I still think is potentially a big problem here. So yeah, Tyron Woodley against Darren Till. I'll start off with Darren Till here, who obviously was down in Liverpool for his fight against Wonderboy. I'll be honest with you, I thought that Wonderboy won that fight. Sat there watching it live. It was one of the most hardest fights I've had to sit down and watch live with my own eyes and evaluate. When I was there, I thought I had no idea who won that fight. I thought everybody obviously was sitting around me was wanting Till to win. And they were like, oh, it's definitely for Till. And I was like, fighting against it, I was like, I think Wonderboy has landed the better shots. I just think he's backing up a little bit too much, and Till is pressuring. I think ultimately it came down to that fifth round with the knockdown was the most significant thing in the whole entire fight, and it gave Darren the win. And I mean, you're beating one of the best guys in the division, and Wonderboy being very patient. It was just a chess match. It was a very, very close fight at that point when I was watching it there live. When I came back home, watched it on the TV, I actually thought that Wonderboy was a little bit unlucky in that one personally. But you have to give props to Darren Till. He went out there, he got the nod, so it's not in his hands what the judges say who won. He went out there, and like I say, there was nothing too much between them. But what will we expect Darren to see? Like Darren, when you've seen these two face to face, Darren is huge. Darren looks like a big guy. Now Woodley's I think he's a stocky, stout guy. But when you look at Till, he's big. I think he's going to be very domineering. He comes forward and he's got those high hands, and he looks to just intimidate you with those kind of strikes. And I think he will try and do that to Woodley here. Likes to kind of pawn off with the right hand to try and catch his range, and then ultimately comes forward with big looping, big straight left-hand shots down the pipe, can throw in the elbow like he did against Donald Cerrone there. So that's what he tries to do. He tries to kind of feel the rangefinder, to say the least, and then throw those big booming strikes. It's going to be interesting to hear who's going to lead the dance, to say the least, because Darren, I think, will look to do that, but he has to be very careful about backing someone up in Tyron Woodley there, who will move forward, will sit against the fence, but when you get close, he will fire shots at you. When Woodley comes forward, he uses that like 1-2 feint. I think, who was I speaking to about that? Den Thomas. He says he's a great exponent of the two feints, the right, left, and then ultimately catching him with the big right-hand shot, which, who did he catch with that? Robbie Lawler when he won the belt, actually. It's a great example. If you go back and watch that, he kind of threw the right, left as kind of feint, and then came back over with the right and absolutely put it on Robbie Lawler to go ahead and win the title. And since then, I mean, he's defended his title against Wonderboy, who's a top 5 guy in the division. I know he took a lot of shit in that fight against Demian Maia. I think he fought smart in that one and fought a good game plan, because if he went to the ground with Maia, I think he could have obviously been in a lot of trouble, but he just kind of completely shut off Demian Maia and had really nothing for Maia really had nothing for him at the end of the day. And I mean, Woodley gets a bad rap and so on. And like even this week, people have been saying he came out and said that he's the greatest welterweight of all time, and people are like, "Oh, that's funny. Why are you saying that?" Now he's the champion. He's got every right to be confident in himself, and I like his confidence, honestly. But that's kind of how I see it going. Can he get Darren Till down? I think he can. I think that if Darren gets a little bit too aggressive, that Tyron can maybe get in there and get takedowns. And I know I'm going back to a fight years ago, and he did hurt himself in that fight with Nicholas Dalby. Nicholas Dalby took him down and went to full mount. If you get someone like Tyron Woodley do that, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. He blew his arm out in that one, so that's why I'm not really counting it as much. But we have seen him on his back and then his opponent in full mount. But like I said, he blew his shoulder out in that one, and then what's his name? Dalby was throwing his arm in the air and it was kind of killing him a little bit. But Darren Till, very precise striker, very good counter striker. And he's obviously shown that he's got patience to fight kind of different fights as well. Like he's come out there very aggressive against Cerrone. Then he fought a chess match kind of against Wonderboy. But I think this is a big step up against. Well, it's a big step up. I don't know. I think he's. I'm surprised he got the title shot. Being honest, I think he had to have another fight. It should have been Woodley and Covington, but it is what it is. For me, I think that Tyron Woodley is going to win this fight, and he is the best odds over here in the UK right now are -104, and I fully expect by fight time for Tyron Woodley to be the underdog in that. And when he is, I will probably bet Tyron Woodley. Everybody, and I mean everybody, seems to be on Darren Till to win this fight, and I can see why. There's a lot of people with a lot of confidence in him, and you can see some of the skills that he has, and he's a top guy, Darren Till. One story I'll tell you about here is when he was at the couple of days before Woodley, before the Wonderboy fight, I should say, the open workouts, there was hundreds of people, and he stayed for every single person and got a picture, me included, which was awesome to see. You don't see enough guys really do it. Like, he spent a good 45 minutes to probably 70, 80 minutes maybe taking pictures with folks, so fair play to the guy. I just think this is a tough matchup against a very confident champion with a lot of power and a lot of skill, fights to a game plan really well. So for me, I'm going to pick Tyron Woodley to pick him to win via knockout or TKO. No, I think over 5 rounds, he will do enough to get takedowns, dominate some of the fight on the mat, and have. I think he'll eat a few shots. Another thing I'll say there before I forget, and again, if I'm going too long, guys, I apologise. Some of you last week were like, "Oh, it's fine. We like listening to you," but there is timestamps there if you want to listen to other fights. And if I'm rambling on too long, you can tune out, obviously. But what fight is it I'm trying to think of? Nate Marquardt. Nate backed him up against the cage and unleashed some hellish strikes and took out Woodley. And you could probably see Darren Till doing something similar here, honestly. But for me, I just think I feel more confident picking Tyron Woodley. Very early on in his career, I was very high on Darren Till. I thought he had a lot of potential. And then since he's faced the higher caliber opposition, I've kind of went the other way. I went with Cerrone, I went with Wonderboy, and it's bit me in the ass big time. I think this is a step up too far. And I think that Darren Till at middleweight's going to be very close to win the championship up there. But for me, I'm going to pick Tyron Woodley to win via decision there. So that's my picks for UFC 228. Again, thank you for all the support. We're going to be back for a new event in a new country, in Russia, when Mark Hunt faces off against Alexei Olenek. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Like I say, there's all those timestamps in there if you want to listen to a certain fight. If you don't want to listen to me talk about that fight, please comment with your picks, your bets, who you're most confident in, who you're not confident in, and so on and so on. But until then, I'll be back next week for UFC Russia. I'm going to enjoy my vacation at my mother's. So take care, and I will see you all very, very soon. Peace.